stop video.
Yeah.
Go to choose a virtual background and then hit blur.
I've got none and I don't have blur.
Blur is
You
not an
have
option.
to update Zoom is the deal.
Okay. All right. Well, there's my life behind me.
Remind me never to like show any of my graphic design to Jessica. She's a tough judge. I walked by town hall today and I took an extra look and I'm like,
Yeah, but I'm not wrong, right?
I can't pretend. Like it's something I've done a lot for work, but I can't pretend to have any expertise in it.
And were you just about to quote the Big Lebowski, Ben Carver? You're not wrong, Jessica. You're just
No. I was about to agree with you 100% on that side. Yeah. Although that would have been a good opportunity.
That would be a good quote.
Yeah.
Except we're recording.
Right. Details.
Yes, we are recording and we are live. So since we are all now here, I will. Oh, Henry's joining us. I will call to order this regular monthly meeting, the May monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. Everyone is present. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Any additions, deletions, or otherwise? And if not, item number 3 on the agenda is our first public comment period, privilege of the floor. I, however, don't see any members of the public who don't otherwise have the ability to offer comment at other times during the meeting. So we'll move on to reports from representatives, starting with Mary, if you're free.
Yeah. So I don't have too much today to say, but Ben Carver and Roxanne Marino and Terry Carroll and I got together and we worked out a plan for the Clean Energy Communities campaigns for solar and alternate heat source heating and cooling. And we're kind of hoping for a table at the farmer's market. I'm not sure where that stands, but I saw that Shirley Brown was on the agenda for today. So maybe I can get some information from her. So the only other thing that really is not that might be of interest to the village is that we established a tree advisory group. We have 6 members, and they're really pretty qualified. Everybody has pretty good background in horticulture or arborist studies. And we're looking for a high school student to also join the committee. And so we have feelers out there with Paul Pennick at the school, and maybe we could find a student who's interested in science who might find this a interesting endeavor to be on this tree advisory group. And that's about all I have.
Mary, I'm currently a student. I feel like I should just throw that out there.
I think we're looking for a high school student.
Any questions or comments for Mary?
No, that's great. And I hope that there can be some useful crossover, if it ever applicable, with the Village Street Tree Committee, who also has wonderful, talented experts, but maybe also no high school students. I guess, Ben, you're the token student. That's great.
I'll take that role. That suits me just fine.
And actually, Mary, I do have a question. You didn't say street tree, though. You just said tree committee, right?
Yeah, so that's it's an advisory group that looks at the trees that are along the roads in the right of way for town maintained roads.
Okay.
So it wouldn't include, for instance, Route 96 because that's a
Sure.
or even county highways, like Halseyville Road. But there are some, actually most of the trees in the town are not under the town's direction. So.
Sure. Cool. Great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Mary. Let's see. We are reserving the 7:30 spot for Shirley Brown when she gets here. Ben, I believe you gave her the link and whatnot. So as soon as we get to 7:30 and she shows up wherever we are in the agenda, we will jump to Shirley. If Ann Corman arrives, we will come back to her under her representative's report. But in the meantime, we'll move along to item number 6 on the agenda, which is our consent agenda. We have draft meeting minutes from our April the 12th regular monthly meeting. We have the approval of the already pre-approved flags for June, which is the Juneteenth flag and the Pride flag. And then we have abstracted claims, which I will just very quickly read through. The totals that we will be approving. In the general fund, we will be approving abstracts in the amount of $227,962.51. In the EMS billing abstract, we have a total of $12,478.61. In the water fund, we have a total of $28,192.38. In sewer, we have a total of $21,149.14. In trust and agency, we have a total of $3,813.41. And so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Terrific. Moving on to the board member reports. I will announce publicly, the board is aware, but I will announce publicly that our Deputy Clerk Morgan Serene has resigned her position effective last week. That position remains vacant. I and the board are discussing in conjunction with Tammy and Vicky best organizational practices for the front office. So for the time being, or for the moment, that position will remain vacant until such time as we decide the most efficient way going forward. How much virtual, how much in person, how much remote, how much open to the public, pretty much everything is up in the air and open for discussion as to how we can most efficiently do the work that is required to be done, that we need to be done, with, in my thought process, and a consideration of how much of what we have traditionally done in the front office can be modernized or operate more efficiently. Certainly New York State law and everything associated with it comes from the 19th century. So how much of that is required to be done in a 19th century fashion versus perhaps something more modern. So stay tuned. In the staying with the theme of vacancies, I was I don't think saddened might feel like I'm overdoing it, but I don't think it's overdoing it. I was saddened to receive the resignation of Hannah Carver from the planning board. She has served, I think, as well as anyone on the planning board has. She, to me, had become an integral part of the planning board over the last several years, particularly through the long and at times difficult review process for the 46 South Street project. So I think the planning board will miss Hannah, but certainly I understand that life happens, and when folks need to deprioritize some of the things that we put up with on a daily basis, I certainly get that. So if you hear this or see this, Hannah, thank you for your service on the planning board. We'll certainly miss you, and wish you the best in everything that you pursue in the future. That does, however, leave a vacancy on the board. So I am officially appointing tonight Greg Colucci, who has been our planning board alternate for some time now. I'm appointing him to fill out the remainder of Hannah's term. I'd have to look up when that is. 2024 comes to mind, 24 or 25. So I've spoken with Greg, and he's eager to continue the work he's been doing on the planning board in a now formally voting position. So thank you, Greg, for being willing to take that on. Just a reminder, everyone here certainly is aware, but a reminder if anyone is watching at home, that our State of the Village will be Saturday the 22nd, starting at 9 a.m., running from 9 to noon, immediately followed by what I'm sure will be a delicious chicken barbecue put on by the Trumansburg Fire Company. Also, we have the Rotary Rubber Duck Race at 1 p.m. So it'll be a fun Saturday, and over the next week and a half, this board will put together our, which part of the agenda each one of us wants to discuss. And then lastly, as far as my report, was it 2 years ago, I guess, or was it 18? I forget. When I wrote a letter and the board signed on to regarding our annual budgets. So I think I want to keep that tradition going. So I will draft something in the next couple of weeks, circulate it to the board. Hopefully it'll be, I don't think it'll be as long as last year's, but kind of just touch on some of the highlights of where we are fiscally, what we're looking at in terms of projects, village projects and whatnot, and then try to get that letter out either in the towards the end of the last week of May or first part of June to coincide with the village tax bills going out first week of June. And then one additional thing, actually, Tammy, I don't know if you've noticed the 20th as an official meeting. We are meeting with the towns next Thursday, the 20th at 4 p.m. It will be both virtual and in person at the town hall. This is simply we did one last year, I think, and the year before. This is just a mid-year open discussion with anyone from the towns that's interested with respect to the fire and EMS operations. We certainly don't have any budget numbers really to share with them looking forward, but they seem to appreciate the ability to talk all things fire and EMS. So that's what we'll be doing. So if you just want to notice that, Tammy, 4 p.m. on the 20th at the town hall. Zoom link to follow. And that's it for me. So I will hand it off to Jessica, Fire, TACC, and Village ETC.
Excellent. We'll start with fire. So we'll start with a call report. So this is May. So April 31 calls total, 12 to the village, 12 to the town, 5 to Covert, and 2 to Hector. And the hours, I don't know if anyone's interested, but I think it's always interesting. The 12 to the village was 16.81 hours. The 12 to the town was 50.67 hours. And there was a total of 72.88 hours, culminating in those 31 calls and mutual aid. The fire company had a meeting just this past Wednesday, and everything is moving along. I don't think it was actually a fairly brief meeting. They're excited about the barbecue. Thanks so much, Tammy and Rorden, for getting out the notice and the postcard to everyone and highlighting that. And actually, Keith, maybe am I the one to ask you to see if we could make a post on the Facebook page highlighting the chicken barbecue? Okay, could you, your thumbs up? Okay, great. And that's slated to come off at 12 o'clock. And it will be a full dinner. It will be $12. And there will only be, I believe, 200 halves. So going, gone on that. And they are not going to do pre-sales. All those things are important, I think, to note if you could. And you can hit me up offline if you have more questions about that. They did, interestingly enough, vote in the fire company meeting to change some what the chief can, what the president can spend before asking for the executive committee's approval. And I'm actually wondering if that's something we might want to consider. And if, Ben, this has come up in the DPW, Gordon, because it's set at 500, but in modern times, it was a consideration if 1,000 makes more sense because there's so little you do, and how much does that affect the budget line? So in terms of having to ask for a requisition above $500 to get it, to wait for that email to get it answered and then move along the chain, we don't have to come to a determination tonight, but I wanted to bring forward that the fire company has changed that for themselves. Is that something that we would want to consider for the department? And is that something that the DPW might be in consideration of for the same reasons of the cost of life in 2021? Okay, so I'm going now to this other. So Ben and I had a meeting, or sorry, Matt and I had a meeting this morning at 8 o'clock. This is still Monday. And so we're right on track for where we need to be with May expenditures. And with only a couple things left. Rorden, you should see soon, if you haven't already, approval for a fan for 3,000, which will need your approval. And if you have seen it, and we can give approval now, or if you can respond to the email. And then other than that, the only other expenditure coming our way for May would be $1,000, $1,378 for rope. So feeling really good about where we are and looking forward to the next budget cycle where some more significant things will need to be addressed in terms of facility, and then taking care of the fire alarm system. But that is also something that will come out of the reserves, for which there is plenty of money and it's been allocated. So we'll look for that to come up. And there's nothing traumatic, just good work. So I have nothing sad nor particularly remarkable like births of babies that I did last time. Does anyone have any questions about fire before I move on?
Just to clarify, that was the fire company changing their internal spending level.
Correct. Which then raised the question in my mind of, oh, is 500 antiquated? Do things just cost more, and it's time to readdress that because, again, it's 2021. But I don't know, maybe OSB isn't going to continue to cost $50 a sheet. I hope that's true. No other questions about fire? No? General applause. I hear it. Okay, so the Village ETC committee is moving forward, and you may have noticed that a slab has been laid for the gigantic giant. And if I haven't stated clearly, I apologize, but there was already pre-existing sort of a committee that was taking care of this asset, the gigantic giant replica, and they had constructed a whole plan. Rorden was part of that committee and is in communication with them, as am I. So they're moving forward with the placement of this asset and having a pre-approved sign for that. And it's also a collaboration with the Taganic Park, the state park, because it's a sort of this really neat crossover. There'll be a sign about the Taganic Park, which directs people to go down there. Likewise, there'll be a sign at Taganic Park that invites people to come up. So a really great way to flow traffic through both aspects of our village. That's moving forward. It's on my plate, and I need to do it now to get our website up so that we can do good things like announce the duck race and the chicken barbecue. Other than that, we're still collecting information and moving forward with designs for the park. What else is on there? People have been asking. So people are thinking about fall events and an October or Oktoberfest and things. So anyway, it's nice to know that the people of the community are looking forward to participating more as things can open up. That's it.
I refuse to think about fall. Any questions for Jessica?
Oh, actually, since I have I'm on live recording, I should just comment about, again, how remarkable our community is for participating in this, and also Nana Potenza and Karen Powers, who are definitely doing more, if not equal, work than myself on this committee and this project. Okay, now I'm really done.
Okay. Questions, comments for Jessica? Jumping around in our agenda a little bit, and we are ahead of ourselves for the first time in a very long time. So I'm going to take a half a step back and come back to reports from representatives for you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, for some reason, I cannot, the second month in a row, I cannot get to this meeting on your webpage. I've tried Google browser, I tried Microsoft Edge browser, and I can't get the agenda. I can't get a meeting link or anything. So I need a primer from somebody on how to do that. We had our first budget meeting for the county, and what we came up with was our goal is to make for maintenance of services. We would have a raise of our overall tax levy of 1.89%, which would average out to about $24 increase for a home, median home valued at about $200,000. We are already seeing some things come up with a couple of departments, which are different positions that we need, different services, for instance, with doing more things around diversity and inclusion and public safety reform. We're seeing that a lot of these things come at some cost, whether it's staff or programming, reaching out to the community more. So I'm sure it's going to be higher than that, but that was just our first meeting with the legislators and our administrator. And speaking of our administrator, I know everybody here knows, but we're really going to miss our county administrator, who's leaving at the end of this month. And it's Jason Molino. He's been here, I think, about 3.5 years, and he's moving back to Livingston County, where he has some family there. His wife has some family there. So anyway, we're really going to miss him. The interim Tompkins County administrators is, we just asked Lisa Holmes, who is one of the deputy administrators, to step in, and she has agreed to do that. So we have appointed Lisa Holmes as the administrator. She'll be starting in a couple of weeks, and she's very capable. You've probably worked with her on various things. So her and then Amy Hendricks will continue to be the deputy administrator. And so we're really going to miss him. We're not sure what the timeline is for replacing him, but we'll keep you informed on that. And really one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about, which maybe was already on your agenda, was the COVID pop-up clinic. Did you guys talk about that, or can I tell you a little bit about that? That's happening in Trumansburg.
We haven't discussed it tonight. We've gotten quite a bit of information from the health department, and we've been publicizing it on social media and whatnot. But please feel free to share. Okay,
great. So that's Thursday evening, and I think it's 5:30. I'll pull up. Let's see. Yep, it's 5:30 to 8:30 Thursday, May 13th. So it's a pop-up COVID-19 clinic with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So it's one and done. And that's at the Trumansburg Elementary School cafeteria, 100 Wig Street, right downtown Trumansburg. And that's for ages 18 and above. You can sign up for an appointment. I also found out today that you can also just walk in. So we're really encouraging people to do that. I went to the food pantry today to hand out some leaflets I also went to a couple of stores and went to the library and a couple of places to hand out the leaflets for it. A lot of places did know about it. A lot of people are telling me they are vaccinated, although with the age group 70 or 18 and above in this county, we have 70% vaccinated. So we do know that there's at least 30% of people who are eligible now that are 18 and above that haven't been vaccinated yet. So we're trying to still reach into the far corners and help people, as you know, make it as easy as possible. And again, for people who are homebound, you can call 211 and the county will come right to your house. So with the vaccination clinic on Thursday, again, you can either sign up online at the health department. You can, if you see one of the flyers around, there's a QR code on it, or you can call 211 to sign up for that, or you can just walk in. And if you are concerned about having ID, or if someone doesn't have proper ID, that's perfectly fine. They'll still vaccinate you. And this is for anybody that works, lives, or goes to school in Tompkins County. And so I think those are the main things. I'll stick with that because I don't want to be the one that puts you over your time allotted for me.
Thanks, Ann. Any questions or comments for Ann?
Do you have to be a Tompkins resident for that pop-up?
You have to be a resident or work or go to school here in the county. But they probably, you know, if there is somebody here that was, I know sometimes that we've made exceptions for people at cars, for instance.
I'm wondering, Ben and Tammy, how we can help Ann find resolution for getting signed in, because that sounds a little bit frustrating. What's the best way to connect with Ann so that she can feel more comfortable for next month?
I just gave her direction. It's right on the home page under the news tab.
Should we also can we create a fake meeting to test it? I'd be willing to participate with that.
That's how I got here.
Yeah, it's the first link on the news. I also sent Ann an email too.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try it again. I'll try it tonight. I'll sign out and then try and sign back in with that under news. Okay.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else for Ann? Okay, thanks, Ann. Appreciate it.
I think it's going to work, by the way. I'm finding it. I was looking under events. I was looking under the calendar, the boards. So, okay, it's under news. Good to know.
It'd be nice. We'll keep on trying to get it on the calendar too, but it's a little tricky. The news is always the best place to go.
Okay. Yeah, it's different for each municipality. So I'll try and learn that.
Okay, we will move on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is farmers market. I see we have Shirley and Debbie here. Ben, I don't know if you want to introduce the topic of the evening with respect to the farmers market.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't recall now if it was last month or the month before, we had talked about a sign at the farmers market. And we kind of conceptually were all in favor of said sign to promote sponsors and other information about the market. And that project has continued to move and evolve. And when we saw some kind of earlier concepts, the board wanted to have a longer conversation about that. So I've asked Shirley, and Debbie has also joined, to kind of walk us through that a little bit more, and we can have a bit of a dialogue here to voice any concerns or feedback or input that anyone on the board would like. So I'll pass it over to Shirley, maybe about just kind of give another quick synopsis. I think we've all seen some of the pictures, but just catch us up to speed.
Thank you. So, all right. So when we, first of all, hello, nice to see you all again. So when we first came to you about the sign, we were talking about the sign out on 227 and 96 at that corner. And we wanted to put the logo of high level sponsors on that sign. And you said, yes, go ahead and do it. And you're right, everything has evolved. Where we've gone with it, that sign, in order to do that, we need to redo the whole sign. So we kind of abandoned that. And then we started to look at a way to put a sign inside the market that would not only have the logo of those top level sponsors, but it would also have the names of other sponsors. So we have the whole, if you've seen the sponsor program that we put together, varying degrees of financial contribution, the people who sponsor get varying degrees of publicity. So on this sign would have logos for the top tier sponsors, and then names of sponsors that fall under different categories, larger font for the next level, and then smaller font, and et cetera. So it'll be representative of the amount of financial contribution that they give to the market. So when we first started looking at it, and this was going to be a sign that we were going to do in addition to the sign that you had approved on the road. And we were originally going to have it be like a movable sandwich board sign. And then as we started to look at that, where would be the best place to put it? And to put it in a place in the market where people would easily see it. So as a sponsor, one of the things that that we wanted to make sure that happened is that it was something they didn't have, people wouldn't have to go searching for the sign, but that, they go into the market and, oh, look, there's this sign. Oh, look at these people are all sponsoring. Oh, I want to sponsor too. And then it, builds a excitement and, interest, and also gives the publicity. So as we looked at it and doing a sandwich board sign, then that added on to Natalie's physical work that she would have to do in moving a big sandwich board sign. And, one thing led to another. And the next thing, we were talking about doing a permanent sign. Well, here's where we got too excited and we forgot to come back and say anything to you at all about that. It was like, oh my God, it's a great permanent sign. So then we designed the sign and we started building the sign. And then Debbie sent a note about it. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, the board would really like to know more about the sign. I was like, well, oh yeah, of course you want to know more about the sign. So that's what I'd like to do. So I don't know, Ben, whether you've shared with the whole board where we're at with it.
Yeah, I shared the sketch drawing and the photo of it as well.
Great, because I do have it where I could share my screen, but essentially, would that be useful to share the screen, or should I just talk about it?
If that's easily facilitated by you, I think that would be fantastic.
Somebody needs to enable me to do that. The host has disabled screen sharing, so if you can enable me to do it, I can do that.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
And while you're doing that, what I can say is, so we've been scoping out the market now. We've been walking around inside the market. Where would be the best place to put it? Where will it not block the vendors being able to see? Where would it be visible to the most people? How does the traffic look in the market? So that's where we've been at with it. We did stop the continuation of putting the thing together. To carving the sign and doing the final work on it until I spoke with you tonight.
See if you can share now, Shirley.
Yeah. So this is the original design, okay? I suppose you're seeing everything in the background. So this, do you see just
no, we
the
see
drawing?
just the design, yeah.
So this is the original design. The top part up, do you see my little cursor too?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this top part here, we originally said we love our sponsors, but that has evolved where now what we want to put up there is a different statement, which says where we come together. So it's just being about the farmers market. It's about the space, and that the space is a place where we come together. And then of course, below it'll still say the farmers market. And below that, this section down here will be like a blackboard type of paint. And it'll say, we love our sponsors. And then it'll have the logo. Right now, Tompkins Trust Company is our first top level sponsor. They're giving us $2,000. So their logo will be there. Then we have other sponsors that their names will go in there, and people who sponsor music, their names will go in there. So it'll all be like a continual growing, morphing sign and fun so that it, people can see it. Then the top piece here, I'm just going to scoot over. I'm going to share something different. I want to share. So here's the actual sign as it. Okay, are you seeing the sign now?
Yes.
We see
Okay,
the
so you're seeing
wooden
this.
frame.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this is, I wasn't expecting it to be quite this big and chunky and beautiful when the people who volunteered to make it made it, but it's beautiful. The top, this is where it'll be carved up here. This is where the farmer's market logo will be. And then down here is the blackboard section. We also thought it would be really valuable to have it be a two-sided sign. So this side will be the farmer's market section. Then if you go on the back side of the sign, it'll have the same thing carved across the top, but we're still in conversation. Maybe here we put the farmer's market logo, maybe we put something else. Then we thought back on the back part and the bottom that we would use that for like a calendar type of thing. So like, for example, the garage sale that's coming up, that could be noted there, or events of interest that would be happening in the space could be put on that back side of the sign. So it becomes a sign that's useful not just for the market, but also useful for the village in whatever way that market space, we kind of relate to it like it's, our space, but it's obviously it belongs to the village. So there's maybe other activities would start happening there. We could also use this back part, the back side of the sign, this section for programming events with the market. So that was our idea. Here is where I'm going to do one more share. And this is where Chris Wolf. So Chris, you seeing this sign now, the one where it's got the writing across the top where it says,
Yep.
Where we come
Yes.
together?
Yeah.
Yep. So Chris Wolf, who did the sign in front of the village office, he also did the original sign for the market that's out on the edge of the street, out on the edge of the street. He's the person who's he designed the sign. He's doing all of the artwork for the sign. This section here will be carved in, really beautifully carved in. And then the backside as well will say the same thing, carved in. That was our idea. We thought it was a great idea. So that's why we just kind of went off with it. And we were very excited about it. But that's what we'd like to do with it. And let's see, I don't know. Let me see if there's, let's see. So I think that's it. That is, we also came, there was also, we also talked about where we gather on that, that Debbie just texted me, where we gather across there. But I thought that what we'd come up with was where we come together, because we were trying to figure out what we could say. Sorry, I'm moving things around and I know you guys are seeing only one thing. We're trying to figure out how could we say something across the top of that would last forever, that would, with the work that we're doing with the sponsorship program and with the market right now is, how do we reach more people? How do we reach the people who normally don't come? And how do we have the people who normally don't come to the market feel like they belong, that this is a place for them? So we played around with a lot of different statements that could go across there that we felt would symbolize that. And then when we started to talk about, this where we come together, I thought that's what we'd actually agreed to. So Debbie and I are a little bit on different pages about it, or where we gather. But it felt like it was a statement that, when you show up and you're in the space, you then become part of the we. You're part of the we, and we're all coming together, and then we're coming together to be at the market, or we're coming together to do the garage sale, or we're coming together to do, a birthday party, or whatever it is that people do to, where they gather. So that's it. But we've got the fundraising handled to pay for the making of the sign. I'm going to stop my share unless anyone wants to ask questions specifically about the sign itself. But we, so we're moving along with it. We've come up with a place that we think would be really useful. We've not committed obviously I had Chris stop the carving. I asked him just to stop and wait until I talked to you before we carved anything into it. The blackboard sections of the sign can easily be removed and something new put in. So it's somewhat, flexible that way. The blackboard material itself can be washed off with water, and then using a particular kind of chalk, you can write in something new in those spaces as well. So it's got some flexibility to it.
Shirley, where did you tentatively, where are you thinking of placing the sign?
So when we looked last week, when we were at the market last week, if you're standing looking at the stage where the musicians play, on the left-hand side of the stage, there's a tree. And then right behind that tree, and between the tree and the edge of the market, there are picnic tables that go along there. So we were thinking of putting it kind of at the back end of the stage along that section. So facing in towards the market. So if you walk into the market from the road, you would see the back side of the sign. And if you're in the market sitting down, listening to the music or walking around, you would see the front side of the sign. It's also at an angle that the vendors wouldn't be blocked from their view of the music. Though there may be, we have quite a few vendors this year. So if we have a really super full vendor load, there might be a little bit of blockage, but we thought that where we came up with it, the spot we came up that we wanted to propose, we thought it was a pretty good spot that would be fairly clear for people.
Okay. Any board questions for Shirley or Debbie?
Yeah, I have a bunch.
Okay.
So I think all that sounds really great. And first of all, does that mean that you don't want to do anything to the sign that's facing 227 and 96, or the one that's outside the market?
I think we kind of tabled the conversation, Jessica, but I think that would be something we do want to do because it's visible from the road. And right now the sign is fine. And we took that off of the sponsorship offering.
Package.
So
Okay.
the package, because we were saying if you commit to sponsoring the market for 3 years, we would put your logo on that sign because it was a hefty commitment on our part to do that. Tompkins Trust Company didn't want to sponsor for 3 years, so we just took it off and said, let's table it for now and we'll do this other sign on the inside instead.
Okay, and so then the sign would need to be repainted when you had new sponsorship on the inside sign?
Yeah, it'll get redone every year.
Because it's only going to be this chalk paint.
Yeah, it's a chalk paint that actually stays remarkably well.
Yeah.
But yes, it would. The chalkboard section would get redone every year.
And that's where the sponsorship logos appear. Okay.
I'm sorry, except for what?
That's where the sponsorship logos appear, is in the chalk paint.
So there's two sections, right? There's the carved section. Then there's one section that will be permanent paint that says the farmer's market.
Yep.
Okay, and then the lower section, that will be chalkboard paint. I believe we were going to put the "We Love Our Sponsors" in permanent paint because that we will use every year. Then the sponsor names would be washed off and then redone every year.
Okay, and then what's the treatment for the carved lettering?
It's a very good question. I don't have an answer to that question.
Okay, so that's a good question.
Chris is gonna, all I know is he's gonna carve the lettering. I don't know. It'll be something that will last for 100 years is what I'm told.
Sure, I guess I would be interested in, is it staying rough and it's gonna weather, or is it gonna be gilted? Is it gonna be, any of that? So, and then I think I would like to, having lived through this sort of a process, I think that it would be great to have sort of an exact diagram of where the sign will be placed, such that the people day of, you are talking to a woman who has lost a little bit of her property line due to people getting excited about their rototiller and their garden placement. So making sure we're clear where the sign would be placed, I think would be good.
One of the things we were going to we could do a diagram. Sure. Sorry, excuse me. I just picked up my pen. We could do a diagram. But one of the things that we were going to offer is that on the 19th, the market of the 19th, if you wanted to come, we could actually show you where we were talking about doing it, and you could take a look at it. And, you know, we had a mock-up sign.
So
same
next,
exact
not this week,
size.
next week. Okay.
Not this, yeah, not tomorrow, but next week. Yes, next week. We have a mock-up of the sign that's exact same size of the sign, and we were carrying it around the market on last Wednesday, you know, sitting it in places, and, you know, so we'll have the same thing. We won't have the final sign, but we'll have that mock-up, and then you can take a look, and, you know, you can see exactly where it's right inside the market. I mean, you could see where it's going to be. I showed it to Ben as well. Didn't I show you, Ben, where it was going to go? Trustee Ben.
I think I saw you wandering with Alan and kind of got a sense of it. Oh, yeah, when you pointed it out again as well afterwards. Yeah.
But happy to have you come and take a look and see where we're looking at. And if, you know, the thing we were trying to really figure out is where to have it so that it accomplishes two things. One, that people can see information if they're walking by or if they come into the market. And the second one is that it's easy to see the sponsor names so that people, you know, like, yeah, you know, it's real, that they actually do get name recognition when they sponsor the market.
Yeah, all that makes great, good sense. Absolutely. And so I'm not available the 19th, but I am interested, surely because I'm just interested, but also because it does relate to this section that we're developing just across the street where the giant will go. And so I love, at first I thought that this was the outside facing sign. And I think that we have two different signs to talk about. And so this one, and it having its own interior farm market view, I still think that being really clear about what the final fonts will look like so that there is some sense of all village green spaces have a similar feel is, without getting too prescriptive or squelching anyone's creativity, is something that we should consider. Yeah, and then placement. And I can connect with you offline and anyone else on the board to see about availability. I'm unfortunately not available next Wednesday.
And we could meet up a day that's not the market, and, you know, as well. We could just meet up there and show you. And then if you want to give the fonts, if you want to pass along what fonts would be preferred, send them to me, and then I can pass those along to Chris. And I'm sure, I mean, he made the sign in front of the village.
So the village hall, I know we did the town hall one, but he made that simple black and white one.
Town hall. I'm sorry. No.
Right.
The town hall.
I know, because it's right there. Yeah.
I get kind of screwed up there. Yeah. In front of the town hall. He made that sign.
Right.
So I'm imagining he's going to do something similar, but if you were to give me the font preferences, I can certainly pass those along to him.
So that board requires that we have those exacted. But what's really exciting, Shirley, about all of this, and Debbie, is that we're creating this really wonderful, trusted brand that is the Village of Trumansburg and these neat, fabulous spaces we have to offer. And so looking forward to developing the parcel that we just talked about. But then if something happened further on, to say, look at all of this that we have, and you can sort of recognize, oh, that's a village park, or green space, or whatever. Again, without getting too prescriptive. And we all know, if we have design realities, right? Like, here's some basic guidelines. Can, you know, be black and white and shades of gray, but if you go neon green, that is kind of not looking the same. So something along those lines. And I think especially when we talk about outside the market. So I'm not sure how to be helpful most for you in that design. But that would, especially because that sign will likely be right across the street visually from the welcoming to the new park site.
You mean the sign that's out on the road?
Yeah. So
yeah, when we get to that one, yeah. Well, we can definitely coordinate that when we get to there. Deb, I don't think we're looking at doing that this year, right?
You're not. Okay.
No,
okay.
Not this year. No, we're just really trying to get the sponsorship program.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. It's great.
Then,
and I'm so glad that you have sponsors who want to participate.
Yeah.
I think that covers my questions for now. And I appreciate your offer to meet my time limit. I think, Ben, you might have given me Shirley's email, and I bet I have it if somewhere if you don't. So I'll connect with you about coming to visit.
Awesome. Yeah. And we're happy to, coordinate as well. I mean, I know this is kind of like off topic, but Tammy and I've been in touch, and Deb and I both agreed that where we can use our platform, our social platform, to promote what's happening in the village, that cross-pollination is really an awesome thing. So that the garage sale has now been sent out on all of our social media. So there's that place where we can work together to build that community where people come together and gather, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because we're still a baby committee, and you guys have a nice marketing program already in place. So that's fantastic.
Happy to help.
Any other questions or comments for Shirley?
I missed a little bit of the introduction here because I had a baby emergency. But I want to express, I think, two feelings that are like feeling a little bit contradictory. The first is gratitude for all of the work that you're doing on this. I think it's amazing to see that movement is happening in sort of a positive direction. To me, it feels like the culmination of a few years of sort of, really hoping, and it feels like it's taking off, and I'm really grateful for that. But I also want to emphasize that from our perspective, it's a very difficult thing to do, because it's hard for us now, after the fact, to be critical of what you've done.
Yeah.
Because we're also so appreciative of all of the work that you put into it. So it's a very tricky spot for us.
Yeah.
And I think for me, so I personally don't really like the town sign, right? I would rather this sign not look like that sign, and I would rather that sign not represent the village aesthetic. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, I don't have anything against it or anything. I just don't think it's representative of the village. And I point all of this out because I think if Jess is involved and you guys are working together, and it really sounds like you're on the right track. So not in a corrective or not even in a negative way, but just I hope that it's something that your board can bear in mind moving forward.
You mean not jumping ahead and not like coming to you afterwards and asking for forgiveness versus asking, like getting you mean that part?
I think that too, but more just that it's village property. So what you do there has implications far beyond the farmer's market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think you recognize, but I just want to make sure to emphasize.
Yeah,
that.
and I do apologize for the, I haven't been in the village, I haven't been on village boards, and my husband he's doing his gig over there with the. Sorry,
and we're very grateful that you are, Shirley.
Right. Yeah, thank you. And I, it's like,
Debbie.
And Deb's more used to it, and I'm a bit like a puppy, like I'm a little happy puppy who get excited about stuff. So I apologize for that. I do apologize for it. Really just like occurred to me like, oh, we'll do a sandwich board sign, no problem. And then all of a sudden it morphed. Well, Natalie would have to carry it in and out. Well, then let's just do a permanent sign. Okay, no problem. And it just went like that, and it didn't occur to me. So it won't happen again. I'll make sure that in anything that I'm working with, and Deb, I know she reins my leash in every once in a while. But I apologize for putting you in that position.
And actually, Shirley, I don't think you need to apologize. One of the things I was talking to Jessica about a couple of days ago was that I have a bad habit of not always sharing some of this. It's actually a good thing I don't share everything that goes on in my head, but I have a bad habit of not sharing some of the things that I have kind of future plans. And one of the things that I do have planned that the board is aware of is, there's this thing we want to do across the street. We want to do some large scale signage there of some kind. I also think that the signs at the three kind of gateway entrances to the village, so by the SureSave, up by Aubles, and then on the water tower, those date back to the early to mid 80s. And so I think that there's probably an opportunity to look to, the one by Aubles is in really bad shape. So there needs to be some.
Where's Aubles? Where's Aubles?
Up by Seneca Road, kind of at the top end of the village as you head out of town towards Interlake. So when you're coming into the village from that direction, there is a sign, and all three of those signs match. They were beautiful when they were first made, and now they're showing, 40 years basically of weathering. Right. So what you end up creating at the farmer's market might end up becoming a jumping off point for kind of a grander scale of design. It might not, but it might also become, kind of a small size template for larger signage that we may want to look at doing. Cool. Just to kind of, pretty up those three major entrances as we get lots and lots of traffic, particularly in tourist months into the village. So I appreciate what you're doing at the market, and I think that there's, it's not so much that we think, well, you should have shown us designs first. It's more like, well, this could actually become a thing. This could become a much larger thing if we start talking about large scale signage elsewhere, if we end up using what you have as a template. So
Right.
Appreciate all of the effort and the consistency. And I think to Jessica's point, the consistency in font and design and so forth, if it does end up becoming a larger effort over the next 18 months or 2 years, it'll be very important to kind of keep that consistency.
Yeah, and we can, look, we can pause for a month. We can pause the installation of the sign. I'd really like to have it be installed by, let's say by June, like the beginning parts of June. Once we give Chris the font for the carving, the only thing that's permanent is the carving. The rest of it is changeable. So we can modify that at any point in time. Like if we do one thing this year, next year, we can make it be something different. The only thing that's permanent is that carving. So if we could come to an agreement on how you would like that carving to be done, the sooner the better. So, and he'll have it done once he gets the okay, he'll complete it within, my guess is he'll have it done within a week or so. And then we can install the sign, because we'd like to get it up for the, and really it's for the sponsors. We'd like to get it up, by the 1st of June would really be great.
Sure. Any other?
I think that's cool, by the way, about the signs. I think that's awesome. That, I mean, the visual of that, having those signs in those different places, and
I know. So now we're like driving all over on Sundays and like swooning over other town and village signs, being like, oh,
cool.
That's so dreamy. What about that one? So not to interfere too much with your process, but is there also a way that we could see what that chalkboardy part would look like? He must have a vision, or you have a vision. Is it just their logos? Like that would be useful too. Like basically, here's a mock-up of what the whole sign is going to look like, and then we can get cohesive on, as a board, hopefully, and we can do this through email, what we think within this range. And Chris will say, oh, okay, that's where I was thinking anyway, or whatever, for the carve.
Well, I can tell you what has been thought of so far. I'm going to reshare this particular little drawing, just so.
Hang on.
Oops, you disabled me. Okay, so this, can you see the sign again?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me do this again. Share. So
there you go.
So this part here, what we had planned was Tompkins Trust Company. The very top part the very top part is going to say, we love our sponsors. Okay, so that, again, we were thinking of putting in a more permanent.
Where we come together.
Yeah. Well, no, where we come together, where we come together is across, that's across the top up here.
Where it currently says.
That's what's carved.
Okay.
Our logo would be permanent. That would be, and we would just use our same logo we've always used. We've used up until now. Then here, this section here, it would say, we love our sponsors. So that just is specifically, we love our sponsors. And then it would have at the top room for 2 or 3 logos, depending on, we're saying we can't imagine having more than 2 or 3 logos. And then after that, there would be lines going across the whole sign. And we would use for more prominent sponsors 2 lines, when you wrote in elementary school and you had that lined paper and you made the big, so it'd be 2 lines for the people, the sponsors who are providing or donating or giving more money. And then as it goes down the sign, then we would use 1 line. So they would become smaller. That's about as far as we've gotten. And this, all of that, other than the logos, is going to be handwritten by one of us. We'll find someone who's got good handwriting, or we can ask Chris if he would be willing to come and write those in once we have the names to put on it. Like that. That's where we've come to with it.
Okay, so then then we love our sponsors is the other font that we would use in that top block of 3. So we've
Yes,
got
that-
where we come together, and then we've got the farmers market logo, and we love our sponsors. And so I would be very interested in making sure that's set if the
Great.
rest is logo and handwritten.
okay,
And
yeah,
frankly, I think to be expeditious, it would probably make sense unless you feel like it's too much to ask of Chris to say, what was your vision for that font block?
okay, I'll
Of
ask him.
those, of
I'll
those
ask him.
three things coming together. And we can likewise, right? It'll just, he's got the font in his head.
Yeah,
And it's, so that would be great.
yeah, I'll ask him and then I'll let you know what he says.
But I also only speak for myself for, you know, if you have, it's not a party of one. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board comment? Going once. Well, thank you, Shirley. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Debbie as well. Thank you for taking a few minutes. No, I think it's great. And certainly don't want to turn this into sign making by committee, but we just want to, you know, again, with that bigger picture in mind of how this may very likely lead to other design in the near future for other signage. Just want to make sure that there's consistency there. But I like what we're seeing, and I certainly appreciate all the effort on your part and everyone else involved. So thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
going forward, you need to know the font, and are village board members coming to the market on the 19th to see where it's positioned?
I am unavailable on the 19th.
I know you are, and you can
Okay.
make an appointment. You'll
Okay.
make an appointment with Shirley. But so I just want to
I'm
make
not
sure I
available
know
on the
exactly
19th.
what's going to happen.
Yeah,
next.
I don't know if Ben or Keith want to weigh in on the location. I think anywhere in that stage area, wherever you think gets the most eyeballs, whether it's
Mhm.
walking in, which I guess would be the back side of the stage, walking in, or if it's on the front side of the stage, which, as you say, we'll see the back of the sign when you walk in from Hector Street 227. I don't,
Mhm.
you know, I think that general area in the kind of the focal point of the grounds makes sense. So
Okay.
happy to leave it. Happy to leave the actual placement. You will want to, of course, just double check with Dusty when the sign is actually placed, because there's electrical in that area somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So right now, the font is the big question.
Yeah, it's mainly just design consistency.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure we know what more details you need so we can fulfill them.
Yeah, the only other concern that I had that I haven't mentioned was wording, but it doesn't sound like there's very much wording on the sign. Just not to get out in the weeds, but you know, this is the village cannot solicit donations. We just have to be careful about what is said, about who is collecting, you know, who's sponsoring whom. I guess would have been a potential pitfall, but that doesn't look like it's an issue based on your design.
Okay. And you're comfortable with the carving, the wording of the carving?
I am. I don't know if anyone else on the board has any strong opinion on that. I think it's fine.
Okay, great. We're very excited about this. And so I'm grateful that we can go forward with this. It's going to be a wonderful project.
I think the sponsorship program overall is great. I mean, this goes back a couple of years now to some of our conversations about how to generate revenue outside of taxpayer dollars. So it's good. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Shirley has been doing an amazing job with all the sponsors.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
It's fun.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you both.
As long as it's fun, it's good.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
You too.
Good night.
Okay, so back to board member reports, and we're up to Ben Carver, EMS Youth and Street Tree Advisory.
Okay, so our apparently now annual tree inventory process is now underway. We met this weekend to go over how we would do it. I don't know how granular I got with the explanation of how that went last year, but I'm hoping that I've simplified how that works procedurally. And then I'm hoping to rely a little bit more on Dave Allen to sort of go and help me double check everything and make sure it's all cohesive. And, you know, a lot of what comes out of the inventory process isn't like an absolute risk number, but it's all a ranking. So it's all relative. So making sure that all of those rankings are done in a cohesive way is the most important thing. But anyway, if you see tree committee members out wandering around, looking up and looking, you know, generally kind of confused and maybe wandering into the road a little bit, that's because they're looking at the trees. That's normal. Just, you know, be careful. Youth programming is back to nearly pre-COVID numbers, which is exciting. So, I mean, obviously it's still very much COVID world as far as precautions go and that kind of thing, but it seems like people are more engaged and more willing and more able to get out and do some of these more sort of recreational fun activities, which is really exciting. The summer rec program has begun taking signups and all of that. Baseball is underway, t-ball is underway. So things are sort of in the world of at least youth recreation and youth programming starting to really look up, which I don't know. For me, we've a couple weeks ago now, Arden and I helped with the tree planting over at the fairgrounds. And between that experience and then the last youth commission meeting, I'm feeling just really a lot more optimistic about life lately. So that's a really nice feeling. We also, as Mary mentioned, the clean energy. Oh, and I'm forgetting Roxanne had given us a name. But anyway, the town and the village.
Oh, truly.
No, it sounded much better than that. But yeah, True You was the sort of old name for the Youth Commission, the True You, which is Trumansburg, Ulysses. Anyway, but our sort of joint committee is working on putting together campaigns, as Mary mentioned. The first thing that I wanted to just sort of shout out quickly is that there will hopefully be a town-hosted webinar on the 18th. I don't think that number is final, but I'll certainly send out an email and, you know, a Facebook notification type thing when that is in the works. What else? Oh, EMS. So I do have one potential hire to discuss in executive session. I also just wanted to share with everyone that Chris has been working with Tammy a lot lately. First of all, to put together an EMS department specific personnel policy, which is something that those of you who are here for his initial hiring will recognize as a familiar topic, because that was one of the main things that we wanted him to work on when we hired him. And the other is something that I mentioned a few times, which is putting together a transport plan for hospitals. And it's something that has been brought up and then sort of let go a number of times. And Chris is starting to feel like he has the personnel again, maybe to start putting something real together. Tammy and Chris put together a sort of rough budget this morning that I haven't had a chance to look at. But I do hope it by the quick look that I did get at that budget, it does look like it will be really possible. And so I'm curious to know what degree of board authorization would be required for that program, to do that in a preliminary way. I know that Ronan and I have talked about this a little bit in sort of a superficial way, but just curious what official actions are required of this board. Do you have any idea, Ronan?
I don't actually think there is one. Because if there's not an initial budget outlay, then it wouldn't be a procurement issue. I have to think about that a little bit more, but I can't think off the top of my head that there's an actual board authorization piece to this.
So the newest version of the budget that Chris put together is I mean, it includes a 40 hours a week staff position. So it's sort of increased since the last time I was talking about it. Obviously, and I'll say this, I think primarily for Mary's benefit and maybe for anyone who's listening, but I do want to be clear that anything that we try would be truly a preliminary sort of experimental program at this point, and that the accounting will be entirely separate from the overall EMS budget. But all right, well, I'll take a look at that budget and I'll try and send out something so that I think at the end of the day, even if I could, or even if Rarden could make the decision independently, I'd like board approval because it feels like potentially a fairly important decision.
Yeah, no, send what you have, we'll take a look at it. And then, again, I'm trying to relate it to other departments. So if police was going to start running another shift,
right,
to do a specific job, and it was revenue neutral at worst, I don't know that it would need board approval, but in any event, it's worth sending around what you have.
All right, and that's all I've got, unless I'm forgetting something, and then I'll do my best to interrupt someone later in the agenda.
Any questions for Ben?
Yeah, Ben, I'm sorry, I missed the subject of the webinar on the 18th. What is that webinar referring to? So there would be a webinar.
That is
on
an
the 18th.
interesting question, Jess. And it feels like I should know that. I am
Was
forgetting
before
if that
you
is
talked
solar or heating and cooling.
It's
Okay.
heating and cooling, Ben.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
Heat Smart. Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
And it also is going to happen.
Oh, good.
It's like 7 p.m.
So the 18th at 7 p.m. with, is it
Lisa Marshall. I forget what her name is. Lisa somebody.
Lisa
Heat Smart.
from Heat Smart.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
But I will send out a link. I mean, I imagine there will be something to publicize that, coming up here quickly. So
I'll send you something, Ben.
cool. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, anything else for Ben?
No, except we saw the Street Creek Tree Committee on the weekend on Wig Street, and we all got a little excited. So thank you. It's spring, and the trees are alive, and they're getting taken care of.
Okay, next up, Dbw Water Sewer CPZR, and if there's anything else on the farmers market.
Great. Yeah. Not much on the farmers market, just to say that it is open. Went to the first Wednesday, last Wednesday. It was a little cold and rainy, but the food was good. The music was good. I'm really looking forward to this year at the market. Definitely an improvement from last year, even though they did an amazing job last year, but it's so nice to have good food and music this time around. So encourage people to get out and enjoy the farmers market. On the CPZR front, we continue to work through the zoning, the kind of key topics we're talking about to just keep everyone reminded is ADUs, so accessory dwelling units, little small homes in the back of people's yards, or additional kind of attached to the house in like an attic or a basement apartment or something like that. So we're working through that, continuing to pull from some model codes that we found and from a draft state law that's circulating that may or may not go anywhere, but kind of gives a sense of maybe where the state might end up pushing municipalities. We'd have to see how that all plays out, but finding places for inspiration, kind of consolidating those all together. I think we've got a draft for the full committee to look at our next meeting. We're also looking at lot dimensions. So I've been working with the county GIS department. I'm not sure what they are now. They've kind of been moved around in the code reshuffling, but was able to pull all the lot sizes for the village and start looking at kind of what is the distribution of lot sizes in the village, and help that data kind of inform what we might look at for new dimensional requirements for lots going forward. So we'll continue to talk about that. And then one other point, just to point out, we've had a lot of conversation about like the actual wording of different parts of the law, and specifically the term family. And so we're looking to move away from the term family where impossible in the zoning. It tends to be fairly exclusionary as a way to kind of restrict who can be in what neighborhoods. And it also tends to fare poorly when challenged legally. So we're kind of looking to move away from that term and just kind of talk about residents of a building and kind of leave it at that. And then as far as the comp plan goes, we've all finished up our edits and that's in EDR's hands now. They're going through a final pass and I've asked them to have that back to us by the state of the village so that we can then circulate that then and put that out for broader comment from the community before a final hearing and that process kind of continuing forward. And then on to Dbw Water Sewer. Rorden and I had a chat with Guy and MRB to talk about the sewer law. So that was a productive conversation. We're going to look forward to some edits to that law from Guy and circulate those with this board. And then I think we'll talk as a board in the next couple of months about kind of moving that bill forward. So this has been a long time in the works, but we're starting to get towards, I think, a place where we'll actually consider it as an item for adoption and hearing and all that kind of jazz in front of this board in the near term. Just to update a couple other DPW projects, the pedestrian bridge, we're still waiting for MRB to get back to us with designs. I talked to Dusty today. He's going to reach out. He's meeting with MRB later in the week to go through and look at the water and sewer buildings as part of capital planning for water and sewer. So he's going to catch up with MRB then about where that stands to get those designs and have that move forward. I think those are the big pieces that are kind of in flight right now. So yeah.
What are you thinking in terms of comp plan timeline? So if EDR gets us the final draft 2.0 by state of the village, we discuss it, kind of unveil it. I don't think we'll necessarily have the time to really get into the weeds in a public comment type of basis at the state of the village. But are they also doing kind of that executive summary, what's changed since the last one?
I lost track of that thread. I know we talked about that. I can ask them if that's something that there's possible to get done by then or maybe shortly thereafter. I can check in with them on that.
That would be helpful because if they can do it, I guess maybe if they haven't been working on it, they probably won't get it done in the next 12 days. But if they do have it, that'd be great. Otherwise, that will be something that we'll publicize. Final draft will be available, obviously, publicly. What are you thinking in terms of meetings versus, eventual final public hearings? What do you want to do? And obviously, summer is tough because everybody's doing other things.
Right. I was going to ask you that question. I'm open to a kind of any which way that goes. There's certainly the hard and fast pieces that we need, which are a public hearing, pre-adoption. We'll have to go through seeker veeker and then vote on it. Obviously that shouldn't be the only thing that we do. So I was thinking, as far as kind of people working on their own asynchronously, like making sure that everyone is aware of this. I think we've talked about sending out a postcard to reinforce this is here. Please go here, look for it, send us feedback. But it would be good to have, I'm thinking at least one public comment meeting to have kind of more of a hearing, a longer time. I think part of that depends a little bit on interest and ability to hold larger meetings and how that continues to unravel with COVID and whatnot. If that ends up being kind of like how we did with police, where there's maybe one in person and one virtual. I hadn't given a lot of thought, but that's kind of, I guess, where off the top of my head, where I'm kind of thinking is maybe one in person, one virtual, and then the more formal stuff after that. But that's kind of just off the top of my head, very open to other people's ideas and suggestions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, maybe depending on how well attended State of the Village is, people are eager to people are eager to yell at us in person instead of over Zoom, and we get a good turnout. Maybe we can have another outdoor meeting of some type for the in-person version, and then have a Zoom version. Because I would like to, have the comp plan adopted, late summer. I don't necessarily want to do it in the middle of summer if there's no input, but late summer, September-ish timeframe seems about right. I certainly don't want to let it linger into the winter.
Yeah, no, I think that feels right. I was thinking kind of a September timeframe. The zoning is continuing to move along, but the more I kind of think about it, the longer I think it's going to take. So I do think that might bleed into 2022, but I think that will all make kind of sense if we keep on that timeline of kind of wrapping up comp plan in September, and maybe we're looking in hopefully earlier to mid 2020 with zoning. 2022.
Okay. Anything else for Ben?
So are we saying that we're going to present a draft of the comp plan at the State of the Village, but we might not have actually had a chance to read that yet ourselves? That makes me feel uncomfortable.
It should be no different than the draft we've all been reviewing over the past months.
Well, but the draft, so it's not going to have adopted changes from EDR that have been suggested by us? Yes, it will, right?
It should have EDR. I see what you're saying. So like in the sections where we said EDR, please go do this thing.
Yeah, and where we made the changes. Yeah. So I would like a chance to make sure that came out the way we intended before we say, hey, everyone, this is what we want you to look at.
I can see what their timeline is. I've been kind of pushing. My sense was that there's very few places where we're asking them to kind of wholesale write anything new at this point. To me, it was very kind of more targeted, add a specific thing here or there. So I wasn't as concerned. I can ask them when they think they'll have that wrapped up and see if there's time for us to review it more thoroughly. We can also just talk about it more broadly at the State of the Village and actually release it a week following it to give us time to review it too, is the other option. I don't think anyone's going to be pulling it up on their phone at the meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll see where EDR is at.
Okay, because I'm also sensitive to the native place recognition statement. So that we definitely haven't seen or addressed.
That is true. Yeah,
there's going to be pretty uncomfortable.
There's going to be some pieces that we just still don't have. I think that's the main one that stands out. And so I don't know if we want to hold until we have that, or
well, where are we with that? Like it's in progress and just sort of out of our timeline at the moment, Roden.
I've been put in touch with. I've been speaking with Ben from the History Center, and he did put me in touch with Sachem George from the Huguenot Nation, but I have not heard back from him with respect to his comments on the language. So that's unclear to me whether their time frame will meet ours.
Okay, so it might be then safer to sort of put insert, blank block for recognition text to come somehow. I don't know. What's there right now makes me really uncomfortable. And I think what I'm sort of operating under is, you put your name on it out there to say, yes, I stand behind this. I just kind of want to make sure I stand behind what we said we're putting out there for people, the public to review. I recognize it's already there for their review. None of this is like a surprise, but if we're inviting, really asking for more in-depth feedback.
Well, I can do this. I can definitely, I've got already a couple of questions to send back to EDR. Why don't I ask them to take that section out that I think I can recall where it is, or I can tell them. And like you're saying, say to be done, insert section here, something like that. So that's a little more clear at the very least. And then I'll see as early as they can get it to us. And then we can make that decision kind of amongst ourselves, how much time we want to give ourselves to give it one extra pass before putting it out there.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move along then to police. Keith.
Good evening. Pretty brief report tonight for starting with stats for April, 199 calls for service. 7 assisted with 7 calls outside the village, assisting the Tompkins County Sheriff Department. Some highlights, if you will: criminal investigations, 7 harassment/disputes, and ongoing more fraud investigations with regard to the New York State unemployment scam. So everyone continue to be on the lookout for that. It's not going away. Did 80 property and residential checks, 23 traffic stops, and 32 informational inquiries and background checks for pistol permit applications. We're about a month or so, a little more than a month in on deployment of our new body cameras, and Chief has reported everything is going well on that front. I had some casual conversations with people connected to the school district about the idea of having an officer direct traffic at the main entrance in the morning because of how congested it gets. Spoke with Chief about that, and I think he certainly understands the need. One issue is the consistency, because if there were to be a call going on at that time, the person directing the officer who would be directing traffic would not be there, would not show up. So to kind of get people used to it, but not have it be there always is an issue. But there is he made it clear there's a larger ongoing conversation happening with the school district that he thinks will amp up once summer hits regarding traffic patterns in general with regards to the school district and the surrounding roads, and kind of hopefully coming up with more of a master plan for all of it instead of just one entrance or exit. So I'll try to keep everyone up to date on that. But certainly one thing he wanted everyone to keep in mind is also that we are seeing an influx in people driving onto the school campus because of the lower number of people using school buses with the pandemic protocol. So more people dropping off means more cars. But it's not just the entrance to campus. There's trying to make us left from south on the main is not easy either in the morning. So it's a flow thing, and so we'll look at that. Lastly, I would just say, Rod and I have been talking. We're hoping to gather more people who are looking to join the committee that he announced spinning out of the police reform. I think right now we only have kind of 2 people that have raised their hand. So if board members or the hundreds of people listening right now know anyone, we'll be continuing that search and amplifying that search over the next month. At least I'm going to be spending a lot more time on it. So please let us know if you have any referrals. And that's it.
Do we have a need to authorize radio purchase? I see that in here.
Yeah, I saw that on the agenda. I thought we did that a month or 2 ago.
Or is this from last month?
It might have been a holdover, but
okay.
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought we had verified it, so I texted Chief real quick, and he is not under the understanding that we have anything. He has anything.
Got it. Okay. Speaking of purchases, though, first, any questions for Keith? We do have need to, going back to the fire report briefly, we do have need to authorize the purchase Due to the dollar amount, we need board approval to spend $3,175.95 on a basically a water pump and vacuum. To be purchased from Jerome Fire Equipment. There was another quote which I have seen. This one is the better price. This will be coming out of the regular fire equipment line, not a reserve. So Jessica, if you'd like to move board approval for this purchase.
So moved. Do I have to restate the numbers?
No. Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, or comments? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll forward that along to Vicky when she gets back next week. Back to the agenda, as I just said, the treasurer is excused for the evening. She's on vacation, so we'll go to Tammy. Do you need me to unmute you? Did you get a request? There you go.
Thank you. I was acting weird. So for the month of April and hot into May, I am working on the water levies and getting all the water and sewer bills posted so that I can have an accurate number for the county come Monday morning. I'm also working on tax prep. I'm getting lots of requests from escrow companies looking for our village tax information because tax day is looming June 1st. Over the last week, I received permission from Warden to go ahead and update our sound equipment in preparation for the State of the Village event. So with Ben Darfler's help, I have purchased speakers and some Bluetooth equipment so that we will be ready and hopefully it will go off without a hitch come the 22nd. Also getting ready for the 22nd and preparing for our first outside event. And I think we're all set. With the DPW's help, we should be all set that Friday afternoon, have everything on property except for the food and the people. So if anybody can think of anything I might have forgotten, please holler. And I'm going to assume that Mr. Darfler at some point will do a dry run with the equipment to make sure that everything is working properly first. Please and thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's
Does
talk
that
about
include
that.
microphones?
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully everything is going to, microphones, speakers, Bluetooth, yay. And we're going to hope that the ground dries up a little bit at the farmer's market park. Other than that, just really busy. The planning board is getting ready for a subdivision hearing. So I've also been helping Tom prep for that. I'll be in the office all day tomorrow. We will be answering phones Wednesday and Thursday from remote. So if anybody needs anything, I will not be in the office those 2 days, but I'm certainly available to you. And I think that's it.
Okay, any questions for Tammy?
So I
Yard
can
sale is on.
Oh yeah, yard sale. I've been working on that today too. Yes, and I'm hopeful to have the list out by the end of the day on Thursday. I think we're standing right about 15 lists so far with 2 people at the farmer's market. But I expect that will heat up over the next couple of days.
Add me to the heat.
Add you?
Add me. I'm in.
Add you to my list? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Hey, Miss Tammy, I've had a couple inquiries about how people can register to be part of the village garage sale, and I don't know what the answer to that.
They just have to email me or call the office.
So email your clerk. Okay.
Yeah.
And I also can't remember if there are trash cans at the farmer's market.
There are trash receptacles that we'll have the guys put out that Saturday morning.
Okay, because,
And
and
then
I
they'll
should probably
collect.
also remind the fire department company, see if they have any near them that will make their lives better. Okay,
Yeah, and just on a personal note, I am going to have to leave that meeting early. Unfortunately, my dad's memorial services are that day. So any help the DPW can get in disassembling after the party, and then we'll take care of everything when we get back in on Monday morning.
okay.
So we're going to use the farmers market office for just storage for a couple of days.
Okay, anything else?
Excuse me.
Item number 8, old business. You'll recall a month or two ago, I had said that we were going to be allocating some funds to be held by NYSEG as a security deposit, essentially for some electrical, basically isolating, and I don't understand all of it, but isolating the circuits that our lights were purchasing from them, isolating that from their system. Which is part of what's budgeted, but they essentially want a security deposit that says if it's not done within a certain period of time, then they will do it at our expense. In speaking with NYPA, they have strongly discouraged me or us from handing NYSEG any cash to be held on deposit. They have no idea what the process is to get that money back when the work is completed. And they actually, NYPA, in the proposal for the streetlight purchase, had allocated money for the fee to get a letter of credit with the bank. So while I thought that the $1,000 application fee for the trust company to write a letter of credit was too high, NYPA said it's actually low, and they've already budgeted for it. So in the Dropbox is a resolution that the trust company is requiring for us in order for them to write the letter of credit. I'll just read very briefly. It says that the undersigned officer, which would be Tammy, the village clerk in this case, the undersigned officer of the village of Trumansburg hereby certifies that at a meeting of the village board of trustees on May 10, 2021, in which a quorum was present and acting throughout, the following resolution was approved by a majority vote. Resolved that the village of Trumansburg obtain a letter of credit with Tompkins Trust Company in the aggregate amount not to exceed $31,800, and to pledge any and all village property required by Tompkins Trust Company as collateral therefore. And it is further resolved that the mayor and treasurer severally, and each of them hereby is authorized to execute any agreements, notes, or other financing documents and to obtain credit advances. And it is further resolved that all prior actions by the village or any officer or employee thereof pursuant to any of the village's prior lines of credit, obligations, or credit agreements with the trust company are hereby ratified and affirmed. As a side note, we don't have any open lines of credit or obligations with the trust company. They actually will, ironically enough, be segregating $31,800 in a separate account. So it's basically a letter of credit based on our own money, which is the same as what NYSEG was going to do, except that we actually have accounts with the trust company and we don't with NYSEG. So I would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution as presented so that we can move forward with the streetlight purchase from NYSEG.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Just to say thank you for clarifying that last resolved, because that one, there was all kinds of red flags going off in my mind. So that, thank you for that.
The whole thing is super weird, just the way it's framed and everything, but seems kosher at the end of the day.
Anything else? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Just by way of timeline, since we've adopted that, Tammy, I will need that signed and certified tomorrow, scanned and emailed to me. That will go to NYSEG and NYPA and the trust company. trust company will, as I'm looking for my calendar, will hopefully be able to issue that letter of credit this week. We had already previously authorized it, but in the abstracts that we adopted earlier, there was a payment by wire to NYSEG for the actual streetlight purchase itself of 40-some thousand. Vicky will be sending that by wire when she gets back on Monday. She then generates an invoice to NYPA for reimbursement for that dollar amount. And then we should be able to officially close on the streetlight purchase by the end of May, by the end of the month. Once that is done, then the contractor, whose name I'm not going to remember, it's a strange name, it's an electrical contractor firm, they are going to begin site work in the month of June. So I'm hoping, they seem to think it wouldn't take very long, but I always add at least 20% to a contractor's estimate. So I'm hoping that by Labor Day-ish, we may have our LED lights with remote app control ready to go. And we can argue about who gets to control the app. Next item of old business is, I previously mentioned, an effort that began several years ago, spearheaded by Senator Gillibrand, to have the Finger Lakes region of New York designated as a National Heritage Area. It's a long process that begins with a feasibility study. Feasibility study was approved in a bill that was passed a couple of years ago, late 2019, early 2020 timeframe. And so the National Park Service is who is designated to do the feasibility study, and they are accepting public comment until June. I feel that it's appropriate for the village to weigh in support of that. And in the Dropbox is a resolution, which I have circulated previously to the board, but for the record, I will, if I can find it, I will read it into the record. Let's see. It is part of the agenda packet, so maybe I won't read the whole thing. Essentially, it states that the National Heritage Area designation would boost local tourism. We state that the village lies in the heart of the proposed National Heritage Area in between Cayuga and Seneca Lakes. We re-emphasize in this resolution the importance of the natural, historic, and cultural aspects of the region. We state the village's proximity to significant unique areas, including Teganic Falls, the Finger Lakes National Forest, the Cayuga and Seneca wine trails, and the Finger Lakes themselves. We emphasize the watershed, the importance of the Finger Lakes as a watershed. And then we resolve that the Board of Trustees supports the designation of the Finger Lakes region as a National Heritage Area. The National Park Service, if you haven't had the opportunity, has a long narrative summary of the area's historic context. We concur with the content of that. The last two resolves say that the village of Trumansburg believes that designating the Finger Lakes as a National Heritage Area is both warranted and vital for the long-term well-being of the region, and be it further resolved that copies of this resolution should be forwarded to the National Park Service, Congressman Tom Reed, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and Senator Chuck Schumer. And so I would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution and forward it along as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Any conversation, questions?
Just a quick note that I actually hadn't noticed until you read that section out loud, but that second to last resolved reads, the village of Trumansburg believes that designation, it should read, of the Finger Lakes as National Heritage Area.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, I mean, I think it's great. It's an exciting thing.
Okay, I'll make
Wait till
that
they see
change.
our street trees.
They
Say
are
again, Jess.
sort of
Wait till they see
unfortunately
ours.
historic.
Wait till they see our street trees, I said. Sorry. This is great. Thanks so much for all your effort on this, Roden.
Sure. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. And then last item of old business, I believe we have a clean energy communities update. Or did we discuss that already earlier?
Oh,
Mary?
sorry, I put that under my update. I didn't actually notice that it was on the agenda.
Okay.
But that's really primarily the webinar. There is some movement, but it's really just updating, filling out NYSERDA's, sort of administrative stuff that's not terribly important. When there's more of note, I'll certainly share it.
Great. Any other items of old business? Only item of new business is really just informative for the board. I don't have any intention to suggest anything, but certainly any of you can if you'd like. As we all know, part of the New York State budget that was passed included the legalization of recreational marijuana sales. There's a couple of different timelines to be aware of. The New York State has to promulgate the rules and regulations by which those sales will be allowed. It sounds like they are going to use the liquor authority, since they already know how to do that kind of work. They're going to use the liquor authority, probably. I don't know that this is finally determined or not, but probably use the liquor authority as the means by which dispensaries will get licensed. That process will probably take 18 months to 2 years. So they're looking at 2023-ish for those licenses to be approved. Municipalities have the option until December, I believe, the 21st, or is it 22nd of this year. Municipalities have the option to opt out of allowing those sales within their borders. If a municipality opts out, they can opt back in at any time in the future. However, if a municipality does not opt out by that deadline, they may never opt out again in the future. Any municipality that does opt out would lose any tax revenue that would be generated by recreational marijuana sales. And it is not yet clear whether that tax revenue will be distributed in the same manner in which sales tax is distributed, kind of in metro areas versus out of metro areas, and then on a per capita basis, or if there's some other formula that will be created. If my memory serves, I believe that the tax on those sales will be either 13 or 16%. I forget which number. 9% of which goes to the state, and the rest of which is split between the county and any municipalities that have not opted out. So I only bring this up because it came up in a TCOG meeting last month. Some of our neighboring municipalities were asking, and by neighboring, I don't mean Ulysses, I mean other Tompkins County municipalities were asking around, is anybody going to opt out? What are your plans? I don't have a sense that we should opt out. We can just regulate location through zoning. But I did want to make sure we were aware of that time frame in case there was a desire to take a closer look at it.
I will point out that that is on my very long list of zoning things to look at that we'll eventually get to.
The law itself has certain restrictions, distance from schools, for instance, and whatnot, but we can further restrict. We can't loosen those guidelines, but we can further restrict if we should want to. Being a small municipality with a clear downtown area, it sort of lends itself to easy, distinction of what can go where. But again, I just wanted to make sure we were aware of that timeline. And if anyone has any comment now, certainly chime in. Otherwise, keep it in mind if there's anything that you think you want to address between now and December.
So if we opt out, we can't opt back in.
If you opt out, you can opt back in.
Okay.
If you don't opt out, you can't opt out in the future.
Okay.
So we've got until December to opt out if we ever want to.
So I'll say I don't think we should opt out. That feels very silly. I shouldn't say silly. I'm sure there are legitimate reasons to do that, but for myself, I don't think we should do it.
Yeah, I'm not looking to lose sales tax.
Agreed.
Nice to know we have some time to ruminate on it.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking we would opt out either, but given it's opt out now or forever hold your peace, wanted to make sure we at least publicly addressed it. Any other items of new business?
So that actually does raise one issue. Sorry. But we had talked, like years ago now, about banning tobacco smoking on Main Street. So just to sort of put, a little seed in people's minds about whether we want to ban marijuana smoking on Main Street or what public use of that looks like on Main Street. And sort of echoing Royden a little bit here, I'm not saying that we should do that, but I think it would be maybe worth thinking about at least. I'm sure that we will get proposals at least, the day after that becomes a thing. There will be, a lot of people asking how we feel about that. So just to raise that issue. So hopefully we can think about it a little bit beforehand.
Won't that also be regulated public consumption, be regulated just like alcohol public consumption? Or we're not sure where the state will fall on that?
So public consumption of alcohol is regulated locally.
Oh, it is?
So,
okay.
So we
Hence
have an
Bourbon
open
Street.
container. We have an open container law which states that there's no alcohol consumption in public areas, except designated seating areas outside of restaurants and bars. So that is something we may need to look at. Obviously, nothing in this law changed, motor vehicle operation intoxication laws. So that's another thing that the state will have to. Well, the state hasn't done anything about it. It is what it is as far as operating a vehicle. But you're right, Ben. I hadn't thought of that. Actually, it wasn't that long ago, 6-7 years, when we were actually being asked to consider amending our zoning to ban future sales of tobacco products within village limits. So this actually goes in the other direction on that conversation. But I guess we'll take it one request at a time. Any other items of new business?
In this case, probably less likely that people will not finish what they're smoking and throw it onto the ground. So
true enough. Let's see. Item number 10 is our second public comment period. And we have no one from the public, unless Henry has anything to say. Not sure if Henry wants to weigh in on.
I thought like on what, like the marijuana thing or just in general.
Anything you want to talk about, Henry, we can talk about right now. I might regret having just said that, but go for it.
I don't know, like as a young, I personally don't smoke weed, but I think that's kind of difficult. Cause like if like we can't like shoot yourself in the foot if we say one regulation, and then like probably like just like make people angry. So I think we should just like do a wait and see approach towards it. Like I think it totally makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of confusing. It's kind of difficult. Like what we should do as a village, at least for now.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think that's why the state allowed the opt out and then opt back in later. You know,
Yeah.
for municipalities that wanted to just kind of see how it all plays out, then they have that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think if it is the liquor authority that regulates it, then that'll at least have some. People will very quickly get used to it because we're used to the alcohol side of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, like see like almost like cat and mouse games, like who will go first, like what municipality in like the surrounding areas will go first, or like who will like decide like opt out, or I don't know.
Sure.
I'm assuming there will be less pushback if a bag of chips is required in this case.
You're having way too much fun with this.
Shannon. I was gonna ask if the zoning for red lights had come up in the CPZR, but I guess I won't, because that's just going too far.
Okay, let's see. Make sure no one else from the public has showed up in the last 30 seconds. I believe, Ben, did you say we have need of an executive session? All right, then I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss EMS personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
All right. Henry, we will bid you good night.
There we go.
And let's see who's left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let me lock the meeting and turn off the recording.